welcome back to Sappers Unscripted, coming to you live from the studio in our bedrooms. We just would like to say this is episode 9, and thank you for all the love and support. And we do see your comments, and that's why this post is so important, because I come with an angry heart. The comment section has nailed us a bit, well, nailed me specifically. But I want to talk today about John Plumtree, the Sharks coach, blaming the Springboks for being rusty. Can you actually believe it? And that's why they're blaming their dreadful loss to the Bulls on their players. Wow, imagine that.
Talking about blaming, I read a comment that literally blamed Brevan for not the videos on YouTube not being downloadable because he's a Bulls fan. And that's the exact same thing we got with John Plumtree here. Because, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. The same thing where he says the Springboks are rusty, yet the Bulls are absolutely slaughtering teams. Now, I don't say that with any smiles on my face or anything, because I'm not one of those guys that if the Stormers don't do good, I support the other South African teams. I despise the Bulls, but you can't deny that they've been absolutely brilliant. So I think John Plumtree should take his finger out of his ass and just move on, because he's talking nonsense.
Yeah. I'm not having the excuses, because the Bulls had their Springboks back as well, and they performed perfectly fine. So I'm not having it. And I don't even think it was the Springboks issue, which I'm sure Brett will elaborate on. I just think Johan Janssen van Rensburg, like, what are you doing, son? Like, that was shocking. But yeah, Bulls, I love you. Thank you for that. It was amazing.
I have Brevan and I had a bit of a offline debate, when the Bulls and the Sharks played, where he was absolutely bragging about the performance from the Bulls. But I had a go at him, and I want to know if anybody would agree that it was 100% expected result that the Bulls would beat the Sharks. I mean, the Sharks are second from bottom on the log currently. So was it worth the hype from Brevan to pump up his Bulls as much as he did against a very, very poor Shark side?
Well, just to clarify to the people that don't know, we shoot the episodes long beforehand. So today is Sunday. We're posting this on Friday, the next week. So just before the next game week. So we literally yesterday was the game. Okay. And the Sharks got smoked. But in the end, as we've said in the previous podcasts, like, form goes out of the window when it comes to derby matches. You could have same with the Bulls and the Stormers when they play each other. Form goes straight out the window because, it's rivalry. The crowd gets you up for the game. And to be fair, just before this game, we spoke about the Sharks putting in 2 decent performances in a row. Yeah, they didn't necessarily get the victory and stuff, but you could see with the performance itself, it was better. And then yesterday, they just went straight back into a dump. It was shocking.
And then coming from that, the Sharks head coach tried to blame the Springboks. So the Springboks were back in a previous game, and when all things went well, he was praising the Springboks. But now that they're playing some Springboks versus some Springboks, all of a sudden it's an issue. How does that make sense? Don't you think that John Plumtree maybe needs to change his selections or change his coaching style, still trying to play New Zealand style rugby in a South African team?
100%, because I didn't see the Springboks in that Sharks team being the issue. Mapimpi maybe, but he's coming off that injury. But Lucanio was brilliant. Etzebeth had a good game. So I couldn't really say it's the Springboks' fault in this case. There were other Kerwin Bosch for me, not great. Rohan Janssen van Rensburg, like I mentioned, not great. Fussy went missing again in parts of the game. So I just think the Bulls were up for the day. They were up there to perform in front of the Loftus faithful. And the Bulls look like they want to stamp their authority in the South African franchises. And I think Stormers and Bulls are well ahead of the Lions and Sharks at the moment. So come 23rd December, I think we're going to have a game of note for sure.
Yeah.
Well, just to add to that, it's not like the Sharks threw in about 10 South African players. They had a couple of extra guys, but the rest of the guys have been playing all season. So you want to say Lucanio and Ibn Etzebet and Mapimpi were all this rusty that they literally cost you the game, while we are saying that they were the best players on the field. Like we spoke about Fassi not being there, Dianki not being at his best this season, and all those type of stuff. They are the guys, I wouldn't say costing the team, but they've been there the whole season. 2 or 3 changes aren't going to all of a sudden change everything and you're going to beat the Bulls. Like, you got battered. Just Springbok players being rusty isn't an excuse for a 40-point loss. That is ridiculous. That is shocking. That's an embarrassing performance. That's an embarrassing result. You could be second to last, but when it comes to Derby, you do not lose in that fashion at all.
Can we agree that the problem with the Sharks, yes, obviously John Plumtree is trying New Zealand style. He came off from being the assistant coach of the All Blacks, and he's coached the Hurricanes, and he's pretty much coached everyone in Super Rugby. Well, not every team, every player. But then he comes back to a South African side with all the money in the world, and yet he decides to play the most boring style of, like, shall we go back to 10-man rugby, like what the Bulls did in 2011? Trying to think that that's going to improve a team that has all the flippant style in the world, all the free boys, but what's happening?
Yeah, no, you're 100% spot on, because there were parts in that game yesterday that I just saw Jaden Hendrickson going for the box kick when they are in our half. And I was like, you have players like Lucanio, Mapimpi, you have creative players that can do some fancy things and can really get creative with the way they play. And they go and box kick. And sorry to say, but Willie LaRue was very good under the high ball. Kane and Moody was very good under the high ball. And Kirkley Orange, of course, always at his best. So it's just, like you say, it was boring rugby. And I would expect that from the Bulls from last season, and like you said, in 2011, not from that Sharks team.
Do we think that coaches can also expire because they play the same brand of rugby, right? And Plumtree has been there for years and years. So maybe his style is just expired by now. You can't be playing that brand of rugby. Just look at the way that the Stormers play now. I know we haven't been at the best of form yet, but the younger coaches coming through, they come through with the new generation, the new style of rugby. It's evolved rugby, where Plumtree and you can say Jake White last season as well. They're so fixated on their old structures that they use in terms of box kicking and physicality, where South Africa knew we had to do that because that is our strong point when it comes to physicality, but we had to expand our game into a running game, and that's how we won the World Cup. Do you think coaches' tactics expire as well, or coach expires, he's too naive to keep it the same way?
So I don't think expire is the right word, because you just mentioned that Jake White last season, but it's the same coach this season. So I think that their thought process maybe get left behind, and it could be implemented like on a different phase of style of play or whatever. But I think that expire is not the right word, but being left behind, and he's still in the past, living in the past, but he can fix what he. Well, we talk about Plumtree. He can fix the fact that he is a good coach, does know the game, can get back on that winning horse with a new, like, everything, overhaul of everything.
Yeah,
well,
and I think.
Do you think it's a lot of in the coaching staff, like not just him, but the coaches that he brings with him as well, that try and tell him, listen, this is the right style. They're almost too scared to speak up and say, listen, we have to try something different, because we slander Kerwin Bosch a bit, but we know when he gets some space or when he gets freedom to do his thing, he's very dangerous, yet he doesn't get used for that at all.
Yeah, like we always mention, Kerwin Bosch is a great attacking player. It's his defense that we might have a few questions on. But if we look at coaches like Ninober and Rassi, like you said, from 2019 to 2023, similar patterns of play, however, become more innovative and change it a bit, and we saw that against France. Especially against France, we played a completely different type of style of rugby while including our up and unders and box kicks, and it worked superbly. And Jake White's done the same. I don't see the Bulls kicking as much, and if they do kick, they're kicking for territory, and they're making sure that they kick it so that they can put other teams under pressure and not just give them the ball in their 22 so that they can run it back. So Plumtree can change this, and I'm sure the coaching staff at the Sharks can as well. It's just all about, can you get more creative with the way you coach? Can you bring new style of play into the team? Like that kind of thing.
Which brings me to my next question, which actually adds on to what Casual Bias just said. If the Sharks have all this money, don't you think that it's not the assistant coaches being too scared to speak up to John Plumtree, but don't you think it's John Plumtree being too scared to take on the investors, the people with the money? They say, we want these players and we want this style of rugby, make it happen. Or do you think that's a bit too far-fetched?
Well, in the end, as we spoke about the Piwe Dianki signing, a large part of it was his talent, of course, and what he did before he got busted. But it's a marketing move. So to get the big names and the big players in is all marketing, and it's good for Sharks rugby. It's good for the investors to have the likes of Eben Etzebeth, Lucanio Arm, Piwe Dianki, and those type of stuff there. Of course, I don't really think they care about style of rugby, especially since it's Americans. Like I don't think they care about rugby at all. So for them, it's just about getting the results and getting the investments back, and that's by winning trophies, winning silverware. And if you look at the way that the Boks have always played, winning silverware comes with playing just physical, almost boring rugby in other people's eyes. And I think that is kind of the approach that Plumtree has adopted to take it on. But it has to change, like truly. If he has to step up and say, listen, I need young players, then go for that young players. Like you can't bullshit around it for too long. Having all these names and stuff doesn't get you anywhere when there's no chemistry in the team. Like they literally look like a bunch of individuals on the field.
Yeah, and yesterday I noticed when the Sharks did have a bit of success with the Bulls is when they were playing with the ball in hand. They were playing to was creating space for Fussy on the outside. And when they got in behind us, it was because they were playing good rugby with their backline. You know, you don't have to bash it up a few times, then box kick, and then only put it to the backline. But I think the Sharks can change this. They have the players to change it. They have the coaching staff to change it. It's all about just realizing it. But as they say, it will have, like you say, you can't use your past ideas and just expect them to work in today's day and age. It works like everything and like that in everything in life. You can't work the same way you did 10 years ago as a business person. You have to work differently. Marketing has become different. So we have to become more innovative in the way we do things.
Who are the Sharks playing next week? Is it the Heineken Cup or are they playing the Lions?
No, they play the Challenge Cup. I don't know against who, but they play the Challenge Cup.
And the thing is, it's tough to say this because, of course, you want the South African teams to do well in those type of tournaments because we've never been in it really. But I don't see the Sharks getting anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah. So on that note, I read, I think it was today or yesterday, that the Sharks are trying to bring people back from overseas. Like they're interested in Jason Jenkins, which is a lock, and a whole bunch of other players who are also in the forwards. I'm not going to mention them yet because that's a story for another episode. But Jason Jenkins specifically, if you got a halfback pairing that is struggling to fire, and to go back on the Cohen Bosch incident where you guys say he's brilliant on attack, I completely disagree. I don't think he braces for defense when he gets the ball. He will run when there's a massive hole in front of him. That's where I see him doing well. When he won't run like Johan Goosen into, or like a Andre Pollard into 2-4 players hoping he'd break the tackle. He'll run where there's a hole. So coming back to what I was saying, if why aren't they signing a world-class fly-off? Why aren't they signing Robert de Prier from Sail Sharks? Get the man back in South Africa. The Oka's world-class. He's played with the Sharks. He knows the ins and outs. He could be knocking on the door for a Springbok jersey. So why are they signing forwards?
I never even thought about that. That would be an absolutely brilliant signing. I
It would
think
be.
I think if you match the money that he receives at sale, or kind of match it, and he gets to play in South Africa, where he has a bigger chance of getting into the box side, because we don't know what the future holds for Andre Pollard, to be honest. And you would think there is a chance that he could get in above Mani Libbok. So that would be an absolutely brilliant signing for him and for the Sharks. They've got to throw the bag at him, because as Brett just said, knowing you've been there, you've grown up there, everything, the stars are just aligned for him to come back. The only difference is he's going to get a lot more money this time than he did when he played for Sharks previously.
Yeah. I mean, even someone else, even if Rob du Preez wasn't the option that they could get, how did we, as South African franchises, let a Tennis de Beer go to Cardiff? Or like, how did we let that happen? The guy was bossing it for the Pumas, and we've spoken about this. He would be a great 10 for the Sharks. He would be absolutely phenomenal. But we've let him go to a Welsh franchise, and it's a waste. It's such a waste.
Yeah,
I completely agree. I can't see. I wonder what the negotiation was with Tinas de Beer's agent as to why they let him go. Why would he sign for a team there? Because the whole country was talking about him, and yet it was such an easy 1, 2, 3 sign go. It wasn't even.
Yeah.
You didn't read anything that other union wanted him. It makes no sense.
I think it's just like when you're coming off such a big season that he had in the Currie Cup, and you get that big move, you don't even think about what the other offers would be if you keep on that form. It's just like big offer, because he probably didn't. He wasn't paid too much playing for the Pumas. Probably had to think, listen, might have to start a podcast and run something extra on the side just to get in some money. That's what you get paid for the Pumas. So when you get the opportunity to go to the URC, I don't think you need to think about it too much. Take that move, try and stand out at Cardiff, and then maybe you get a big signing back at the Sharks.
Yeah, but the fact that we let him go in the first place, because the Sharks have the money to put him in at 10. The Lions, okay, that's a bit of a different debate. But those are the Sharks are just a perfect example for me. But then again, the Sharks could be backing Kerwin Bosch, whereas we might not see what they see. But it's just one of those things, and it's unfortunate that we've let him go. It really is.
Well, to be fair, I think they fully back Kerwin Bosch and Boeta Chamberlain to do the job, because there has been it doesn't even look like they are trying to move on from them. It's just like back them, and finally they'll make something work.
So while we're on the topic of fly halves, a little birdie tweeted in my ear that seeing that we are Sapphirs Unscripted, I'm going completely off script here, and I read that Elton Yankees wants to come back to the Lions and end his career with the Lions.
Why would he do that? He just bought a Lambo overseas.
Well, he's not playing anywhere.
It was a rental, that's why. And now he needs money back.
Probably. But what do you think of that? Elton Yankees back at the Lions, back where, if you're going to call it anything, it's back where he belongs.
Well,
yeah, you know what? I actually don't know what to think of it, because it makes sense, but at the same time, most South Africans are like, oh, for goodness sakes, it's Elton Yankees. But we forget how good Elton Yankees was for the Lions. Like, we don't actually... Elton Yankees in those 3 seasons in Super Rugby, I don't think I've seen such a good... I think he was one of the best Super Rugby fly-offs at the time. Test match levels, a different story. But I can't actually wrap my head around it. It would make for some funny stuff, to be fair.
Brevon, I totally agree with you. I thought you were going to slander the guy, and then I was going to say, listen, but he was absolutely brilliant for the Lions.
I can't slander him because
I
it
don't
might
mind
make
it at
sense.
all because look at the facts. The Lions are struggling with tens as well. Like they do have Nahamba playing there at the moment, but Hendricks
What
has
the-
not been cutting it. And if you think about the likes of Elton Yankees and everything he's done for the Lions, it's not a bad signing. It could easily turn out to be what Ruan Pinar is for the Cheetahs at the moment. Like
Yeah.
in his career, they don't expect to play every game, but if he performs and brings that experience, brings that calmness, I mean, I don't see Elton Yankees bringing calmness. I mean, look at his hair; it's absolutely ridiculous. A guy like that can never bring calmness, but I think just the experience and I think he loves the club. That is what it's about. So
But
I'm not surprised at all. I am surprised in hearing he wants to come back because I thought he was playing overseas.
but I just want to ask a question, and we don't need to debate this. We're not here to slander anyone. But he was tested positive for Ken Butrell, if I'm correct.
Yeah, but
But now, does that not affect? Is he not banned? Did no one come
the,
out and say
the
anything?
article said he wants to come back to the Lions. Didn't
Okay.
say anything, and also he wasn't found guilty for that. And remember, clenbuterol is the asthma medication that people use
Yeah.
for cutting. So there's still a case there that's open. That's a story for another day. But
Yeah. No.
every time we talk about Elton Yankees, we're going to change our name from Sapphirs Unscripted to Flabbergasted Sapphirs because I hit you guys with the Elton Yankees there, and we were all three dumbstruck.
Yeah, I mean, it came out of left field. Like the last thing I thought we were going to speak about is Elton Yankees coming back to the Lions.
I mean,
especially,
actually, you know what?
right.
I back it. I actually back it. I'm going to sit here and say I'm all for it. If he is cleared to play and he is ready to play, bring it on. I'm keen to see what the guy can do for the Lions because what he did for the Lions when he was there was phenomenal. So hopefully he can do it again. I really want the guy to succeed. I mean, we want all our South African players to succeed. But interesting topic. Interesting topic.
Do we think that as he kicks for goal, his first goal kick for the Lions, do you think the Ellis Park crowd will be cheering or booing?
Well, there's about 300 of them at the moment, so it won't be very loud, which is unfortunate.
He's such a controversial figure, but I think he's actually loved at the Lions.
Yeah, he
I think
is.
he's done brilliant things for the Lions, and he's a bit of a meme, but that just makes you appreciate him a bit more because he just brings chaos. I mean, all the stories of this guy, he just knows how to keep himself in the news. He hasn't played for the Boks in a very long time, and yet people are talking about the ex Springbok number 10 wanting to go back to the Lions, doing steroids, his plane scandal, everything Elton does somehow gets to the news.
Yeah, especially like 1 week, Elton Yankees headline: Elton Yankees gets tested for clenbuterol, banned substance in sports. Then the very next week, Elton Yankees buys a Lamborghini Urus. Like, I need to start taking clenbuterol because apparently it puts money in your account to buy a 4 million rand car.
Yeah, surely he goes to like journalists and say, listen, I'm going to get you some massive news, right? And you're going to give me like 40% incentives. And then he takes drugs, gives them the story about him, and then it goes viral and he gets all the incentives of it.
Just for everyone out there, this does not disclaim, this is not a part of Sapphirs Unscripted. This was merely a theory. It's not published news, so do not come at us for that. Maybe it's true, but maybe it's not.
Yeah, we just make up our own little scenarios in our head. That's how we work. So get used to it, folks.
Obviously, I want to speak to you guys a bit about finally. Now, as we said, we are a bit behind, but the Stormers finally won a game. The Stormers won a game, and I thought we'd never win a game again. And we played shocking. We should have won. We should have beat Zebre by about 70 points. But I'm just happy if it was a half a point, 1 point, a half a point. I don't even care. I just wanted a victory again because I
So
was emotional.
uncharacteristically from the Stormers, who have had 2 URC finals and they got most of their Springboks back, uncharacteristically had double figure handling errors, unforced errors also in the double figures, and missed tackles. One of the best defensive teams in the URC over the last 2 years had more missed tackles than Zebra. Can you imagine that? Fortunately, the Stormers won. They beat Zebra, but it was Zebra. So I'm not quite convinced at this performance from the Stormers as to on the road forward. What the heck? Oh, I almost said a bad
Yeah.
word.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm actually gonna vouch for the Stormers here. I can't believe it, but Zebra is one of those teams, and usually you find this. I mean, Brett, you and me play rugby, and when we play against, sometimes when you play against those sides that you just don't rate, and it's not like you underestimate them, but in the back of your head, you're like, okay, we should be beating these guys. It's almost like your mind kind of goes into like a second gear rather than a fifth gear, for example, and you just think, oh, I made a knock on, but we'll fix it because we can beat these guys. And I feel like it was one of those games for the Stormers. I fully have no. The Stormers will be better than they were this past weekend, 100%. When they play the Bulls, I'm expecting a very good Stormers side,
And a
and
Stormers victory.
no, not that, but. Yeah, I'll vouch for them. I think 31-7. It's not a great victory, but you got the job done. You got the points, and that's all that matters really. You just need the points to get into that playoff position.
Well, to
The
be
casual
fair, right?
bias, yeah.
I wanted to say, like, Zebra have been impressive this season compared to their previous 2 seasons that we've seen them. It's a new team. It's a young team. It looks like a hungry team. I mean, you could see what that victory against the Sharks meant to them in Palma when they played. But I don't think the Stormers necessarily were too bad yesterday in certain aspects, because there's a lot of chances that we butchered, but we did well to get there. I mean, just look at Daimani, clean through, just has to score, knocks the ball, just like
With
out
nobody.
of nothing. And
Yeah.
and as Brett mentioned with our defense, we've been bad defensively all season. Now we haven't necessarily conceded the most points, but the missed tackles are scary. Brett, remember when we were on a TikTok live watching the Stormers play against Glasgow and Cardiff? We were shocking defensively.
Yeah.
And it's not even system, it's missed tackles, like guys just sliding off tackles like they don't want to tackle. It's the
Yeah.
weirdest thing.
And tackling's the attitude. But I think that one of the big problems I'm seeing this season at the Stormers is I think Dobbo is backing people that he shouldn't be backing. And hear me out. So a guy like Joseph Dweber, like he's been poor now for at least a whole year. At the box, he was poor. Comes to Stormers, and again against Zebra, throws over, throws skew, stuff like this. Then Andre Higuventer comes on, makes yards. He's half the size of Dweber, and he's breaking tackles like it's nobody's business. And he wants to be there. Not one skew throw. Everything that could go well for the reserve hooker did. And then in the back three, I think Zas was pretty mediocre, was one of his not so good games. But Warwick Gelant and Cordnel Skorsan, what on earth? Why are they playing at the Stormers? I haven't seen a Warwick Gelant be this poor since he kicked Jan Sarfontein in the bum when he played for the Bulls. This is just poor decision making from Warwick Gelant. And I went on that other app and they were slandering him like it's nobody's business.
Yeah, it's not great to see, and I can agree with Dobbo maybe backing players that should not be backed. I mean, I can always advocate for myself that I've always been the biggest fan, or one of Joseph Dweber's biggest fans. When he was first included in that box squad, I was like, okay, this guy, I've watched this guy since Cheetah days. He's great. He's good at ball carrying. He does a great job at hooker. And like you said, he's just been disappointing. And we continue to back him. But then it's bad performance after bad performance. And at some point, a player needs to take responsibility. You have to step up. And yes, we all have our bad patches of form, but we have to fight our way out of it. And I just feel like maybe Joseph Dweber doesn't have the attitude to do that. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you just look at the Stormers and the two players we just mentioned, have you ever seen a bigger drop off in like such a short time when it comes to Joseph Dweber? Because when he got called up for the Springboks, it was a valid call up. He was very good for us. I mean, he played brilliantly. He scrummed good. And all that we spoke about was him just having to sort out his lineouts.
Yeah.
Now, he can't do anything right. And then Warwick Geland looks like he's playing sevens rugby. I mean, Mani Lobo gets the ball, gives a flat pass to Warwick Geland. He has got two players outside of him. He literally stops in the field, jogs the other way around, like Fiji does in sevens. Yes. I couldn't understand what I'm watching. Like, you could see the difference with Damian Willemse there on the field. Even though he played inside center, he does what Warwick wants to do, but he executes it. Yes. And I just I can't even watch Geland. I was a massive advocate for the guy, but at the moment, every time he gets the ball, he knocks the ball in the air, he kicks the ball away. It just feels like he's nowhere on the field. I can't wait for Sasha and Dan du Plessis to come back, because Willemse goes to fullback then. Dan du Plessis or Sasha takes that inside center position, and the other one goes onto the bench, and they are the utility back coming onto the field. Because I've had enough of it. Same with get Skosan off the field. Bring back Sloman Hudson.
Yeah, he played well. He played well coming off the bench.
Exactly. Hopefully next week that's his spot again.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, our episode will be more positive the next time around. We did have a little bit of a fun take at Alton Yankees, but we think the Sharks need Robert de Preer back. Remember to hit that like, subscribe, and ring the bell. So whenever a video of ours comes out, you get notified of it. So thank you for watching episode 9. We will see you again with episode 10. Have a good one. Au revoir. Bye-bye.